Goffstown Select Board meeting for July 28th, 2025. This is our regular scheduled meeting. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up is the acceptance and correction of the minutes from 7/14/2025.
Make a motion, we accept the minutes of 7/14/2025, public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second.
Did you second that, Jim? I did. Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. Announcement, I do have one announcement. This is, please join the Goffstown Police Department and community organizations for National Night Out on Tuesday, August 5th, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Goffstown High School rear parking lot at 27 Wallace Road. That's next Tuesday night. National Night Out is an annual community building campaign that promotes police, community partnership, and neighborhood camaraderie to make our neighborhoods safer, more caring places to live. This is a family fun event. There'll be lots of informational booths and fun for all ages. We look forward to spending time with our community members. Is there anybody here for public comment? Come right up, sir. Can you write your name and, or not, you don't have to write your name, just state your name.
Actually, I'm here for public comment in anticipation of this conversation about St. Anselm College.
Uh-huh.
So I thought some perspective. My name is John Bisson. I'm an attorney from Manchester, New Hampshire. I represent the Alger family, which is a taxpayer and the owner of property in Goffstown. And I read the article in the paper about what you were going to be doing tonight. And I have to say I was a little surprised because we have been working with your planning board and the zoning board for a long time trying to get some sense of urgency in Goffstown regarding this project. We've been through the process in Bedford, ZBA, it got kicked back over here with the planning board, back and forth, back and forth. There are a number of serious concerns about what's going on in Bedford from our perspective. All the drainage is directed at Goffstown. There are issues of potential PFAS. There are traffic issues, lighting issues, a number of concerns. I'm sure you'll question the applicants who are behind me about those issues. Our concern is now that Bedford has essentially approved the project, we want to understand really from Goffstown's perspective, what, if any, sort of oversight will Goffstown have? Because my clients are taxpayers since the 1800s in Goffstown and would look to Goffstown if there is PFAS contamination, drainage problems, traffic problems, all of that. And that has been left sort of in limbo. The Algers family goes to Bedford and they're told, well, you're sort of Goffstown, you come to Goffstown, and here, well, the project's in Bedford, so they're stuck in the middle. They have a 25-acre parcel right there. It already has been negatively impacted by a drainage failure regarding St. A's project that they've admitted and said they would fix 2 years ago, still not fixed. So there are a number of issues. Just wanted to sort of put that out there in perspective. Joanne Duffy in your community development office has piles and piles of information that has been provided and should give you some insight. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, first up is gonna be an appointment with T.F. Moran and St. Anselm College about reference to this complex project. My first thing we need to do, with my recommendation, is to rescind a vote that we took to file with the planning board in Bedford, because number one, the period's already done. It's already past that filing period, so that would be our first business. So I need a motion on that.
Yeah, I hear you, Peter, because I didn't realize that we're past that. I made the motion. I'll make a motion to rescind us to file an appeal with Bedford Planning Board because we're past due.
Okay.
And I believe I was the one that seconded it, right? Yeah, I'll say motion for me.
So I have a motion by Josh and it was seconded by Mark to rescind our motion. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Now, if we could have the folks from St. A's come up to the front. Make sure you state your names for the record.
Yep, William Furlong, VP for Finance and CFO at St. Anselm College.
Good evening, Nick Golem. I'm a licensed engineer and principal with the firm TF Moran.
All right, so you've heard, I'm sure you've heard some of our concerns that vote was taken, when Bedford took their vote, they voted to make sure that construction traffic was pushed through Goffstown, and that's our concern. We understand the project has gone through the big planning process, but the structure and superstructure of the town is our responsibility. So I think that's what, we want to get some assurances that this can be covered, taken care of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, again, every project that we've done on the school property has essentially been through Goffstown. We've not used that other access space or road for anything except for a few times we used it for to evacuate presidential nominees out the back door. So, yes, it came to our attention that the two things that we were talking about was the conveyance, of the non-conveyance of that road. Essentially, we put the gate in the wrong place a long time ago, and it was discovered that there was in the wrong place. So that's what that piece was. The second piece that we heard was worrying about the construction vehicles on St. A's Drive. Again, we've done a lot of projects since I've been up there, and a lot of construction as vehicles have gone up on that road. We understand what the concern is. We just don't. We're trying to come up. I ask how we might look at and do that, seeing that there's a lot of traffic that goes down St. A's Drive that just isn't always for St. Anselm College, right? There are other companies that are on the road that have some large pieces of equipment that might go, they might go left, they might go right, and use St. A's Drive again. So just trying to figure out how we come up with a plan that figures out that what, if there is any, impact to the road, how do we know it's St. Anselm College and the construction vehicles that are related to this project? That's the hardest part, I think, of this whole thing, is kind of figuring out that piece.
Okay, Josh, did you have some questions?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I do think that the construction is a concern, as you heard in the public comment. There was concern even at the Bedford Planning Board meeting around PFAS as well, and I think the Bedford Planning Board actually talked about sampling the PFAS of the dirt as well when it was being brought in. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. So, I mean, that wouldn't fall upon Goffstown if any of that came through, because Bedford has actually approved all the planning of that PFAS material, correct?
For a project in there.
On the Bedford side.
In Bedford, right?
So if
Yeah.
any of that leaks into Goffstown, then that still would be something that occurs within Bedford and occurs with St. Anselm, the responsibility of St. Anselm's, correct?
If you looked at what we said in the minutes at Bedford, that is exactly what we said. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So as far as like the construction material is concerned, my understanding is there's going to be very large loads of dirt and fill, basically, that's going to be coming in and out of that facility the entire time. So while there could be construction material that is coming across there, they're not necessarily carrying like tons and tons of dirt and rock.
I can help a little bit. Just the civil site standpoint, I can at least assist a little bit. We always endeavor to have a balanced site. It's most cost effective. In this case, it's not a perfect balance, but what we did is, through the steep parts, we're taking that material and then displacing it downstream as part of our fill. The material is fairly consistent, but not ideal from a construction standpoint. So the intent is to reuse everything that we can, the selects that we need. So underneath the synthetic turf field, we've got different systems of gravel and stone. Those have to be imported, so we would have those types of imports. But when we look at just as a basis of material coming in and coming out, I wouldn't say this is any different than a typical construction project.
But really, the only construction project that's happening is on that road. Most of the construction projects are not going to be happening across that road, correct?
No, I don't know that I could make that determination, not knowing what other construction projects are happening in and around town. Before we came in, though, I wanted to make sure I took a look back at, so NHDOT has their MS2 counter. So we've got over 7,000 vehicles per day turning off of 114 onto St. A's Drive. The perspective I was able to give Bill on this is, having been involved with a lot of projects, we've come across this before. The municipality was concerned about the wear and tear, and the possible premature degradation of their roadways. So they asked the applicant to go do a video survey or to evaluate it and do a bond. In all of those instances, those were typically dead-end roads. They were residential streets that were very definable that the residents were using, and that any additional traffic that could be seen was from construction vehicles. We don't have that same benefit with St. A's Drive, just because of the sheer volume of vehicles. So it's not quite an apple-to-apple comparison. That's why we're trying to figure out, how do we still give the town of Goffstown the support they need to make sure that their roadway infrastructure isn't being negatively damaged. So we're just as much here in a listening exercise to hear what your solutions are, because as far as my bag of tools for this type of instance, I'm a little more limited, because I can't say, all right, Bill, chances are it's one of your construction vehicles, not when we're talking about that type of volume.
Of the 7,000 vehicles that go through there, what percentage are actually faculty or staff or anybody that's visiting St. Anselm's?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to define that, I'm sorry. This is from a traffic counter that the DOT has
Sure.
out there as a permanent, so.
But we
What-
can assume that a lot of traffic there is going to St. Anselm's.
Perfunctorily, yes.
Yes,
There's a,
okay.
that's a, I'd say you guys are one of the major end users, tax base as well as
Yeah.
employee count, so
Did-
when you guys are open.
For sure. I mean, we're the first or second largest taxpayer in the.
Absolutely. And we
Right,
love
in
that.
so that's,
Yeah.
you know, we are a big user, but we're also a fairly large taxpayer here, right? So, yeah, I don't know how you can, I don't know how we'd be able to know who's coming to our school, who's not going down to our school on the day in which they did the count, right? Yes, there's quite a bit of that going down the street for St. Anselm College.
Okay.
I would say that there's some fairly large businesses that have fairly large vehicles that are also on that street or nearby that might use that street as well. I'll just put it at that.
That's all I have for now.
Okay.
Peter.
Why wasn't upgrading Rutland Hill a consideration?
I can take that if you'd like. Thank you. The reality is that gate has been there for 30 years.
Well, yeah, longer than I've been there, that's for sure.
The reality is that exit or entrance point, depending on how you look at it, it was never intended for school traffic. It was emergency access egress only. I think that's for a number of reasons. Yes, it does exit into a Bedford residency that doesn't see that type of typical traffic volume, but also it's an important point of access from a security standpoint for the college. Right now, they're set up such that that's primarily limited from St. A's Drive. And all of their facilities, their faculty, their security have defined it that way and done so over a considerable period of time. To revisit opening, or to visit opening that gate changes a lot of variables. It's not that things can't be done. It's been determined through my understanding that that wasn't desirable to the town of Bedford, so they did not propose it, nor did they ask the college to do so.
And that makes it desirable for us to.
Not at all.
Traffic through Goffstown?
Not at all. There's
So my
competing
question
interests.
is, when progress goes, I'm sure when that gate was put up, as you keep relating to how long it's been there, that there was no plan to put this big sports complex there. Okay, so, it's either you can say, okay, because of the gate there, we can't, and they don't have any access to that piece of property, we really can't develop it. Or we say, you know, we're gonna develop that piece of property, let's make sure there's 2 entrances, 2 exits for it, as a safety precaution. You know, one side gets plugged up, and then you don't have the access to the other side. Or you have an access, but it's through a gate that's Opticon, I believe, is activates it. So I'm not sure how you could say, because the gate's been there this many years, we can't upgrade. That
Oh,
doesn't
no,
make
not at all,
sense to
sir.
me.
So my apologies if that's what came across. What Bedford asked us to do was more of a house cleaning item. They asked us to make sure that there was a discontinuance subject to gates and bars. So the road's still being maintained, it still can be used by emergency responders, and it's intended to be. It's just the fact that they had a gate there, and you can't have that in a caustic road unless it was discontinued, that this was an order of housekeeping for them to do that. I suppose the question of wanting to have that be a permanent access would be a much larger one, and it was not something that was explored by the town of Bedford. As far as our planning and review process with the town of Goffstown, that was also discussed. There were some folks in favor of seeing that progressed, and there was a larger group of folks who were opposed to that. Planning board did not issue an approval for that project that conditioned us to open that gate, as that was not the collective agreement of the board. So it was something that was discussed. Our minutes do reflect that. I don't want you to think we skirted that issue in any way, shape, or form. It was discussed. There was the voice of some people that they wanted to see that gate opened. The overall group, being that it is a board that has to have all votes, determined that no, that was not something they were wishing to pursue.
I hope you can understand our concern, this board's concern, is with the taxpayers of the town of Goffstown and our infrastructure. You know, I appreciate what St. A's does, and I appreciate them being the second largest taxpayer, but also we can't have maybe further development back there, and again, assuming that the traffic is good, the town's going to say, okay, no problem, just keep pounding down through Goffstown. Now, if something happens, like I said, in the backside over there where it's in St. A's and Goffstown, and a fire or something like that, then you don't have, that road isn't built up enough to handle. And I don't understand why you can't run construction traffic through a dirt road. I mean, they do it all the time. So, when you're building roads, you're running up and down a dirt road, so.
That's fair. And
Mark, do you have something?
That was going to be my suggestion, as the chairman just said. While and during the construction is going on, everything will come through Bedford. Once the facility is built, up, open, and ready to go, now we can bring the car traffic and the vehicle traffic through the Goffstown, up Rutland Hill in that way. And take that gate and move it closer to the ice arena. The gate that sits in the middle of that area, I believe you have to get out and use a key. The other gate further up by the ice arena is the one that's, works on the optical.
Both of them are optical.
Both of them, okay.
Yep. Because you have to be able to get in there, because
Yep.
my understanding is there's a relationship with the fire department and the police department, and I might get this wrong, but the fire department is going to respond from Goffstown for everything that's called on for St. Anselm College, but the police department will, from Bedford, will respond to the parking lot that's in Bedford. It's my concern. I don't know how that happened, or where, again, this is two towns talking to each other, but my understanding is Goffstown police respond to everything else. So there is an opticon in there so they can respond to that.
That was my idea while the construction's going on through Bedford. Once the construction's going and is done, and all the heavy trucks are done, where there'll be no damage to the road, then we can allow them to come in through Goffstown, up Rutland Hill, into the area.
It would alleviate the need to monitor, because you'd be coming in through Bedford. So if that's an option, I think that's a good option to explore. If not, then I think we should look at monitoring the road.
Well, I can speak from the standpoint of that as not a condition of Bedford's approval, and and I will speak collectively, did not express a desire to have that happen, quite the opposite. So I can't put words in their mouth, only the ones that have already been stated and put on record. They said no. They were not asking for that. So I know that we can't go back to them and ask them, can you reconsider again whether or not this is something that you would entertain? If this board thinks there's an importance to monitor the road in some capacity, St. Anselm College understands and wants to be a good partner to the town, and we commit to that in whatever fashion is determined to be appropriate. Now, I'm putting words in Bill's mouth, so I'll be careful, but it's something we've already talked as a team. And the reality is construction traffic through Bedford isn't an option as defined. But if we're concerned about the condition of St. A's Drive, which I believe was on the schedule for resurfacing, I want to say it was maybe even this year, but it's been put off. Just a lot going on in town. Sometimes things get put off a year.
There's a lot going on in town.
Sometimes things get put off a year, 2 years, so we don't know exactly when that's going to take place. But thinking about what the timing is of construction, it almost behooves us to get this work done as soon as possible so we can be done and out of there, and then allow DPW to do their work. So this may actually work out to the town's advantage, is what I guess I'm hoping to say. But if the board thinks that this is a necessary item. That's why we're here, is to hear that concern and help address it.
You mentioned DOT vehicle count. Where was that count conducted at?
Sure. It was conducted right at the intersection of 114 and St. Anselm's Drive. It's publicly available information. This would have been done they're always a year behind, so it's 2024.
Also, a lot of people cut off and go down by Omaze.
Yeah, that's,
Down.
that
They're not
was,
going all
that
the
was
way
gonna
down.
be my next statement, that the heavier trucks that they're talking about, they're going over to Cody Riggin, and that's, that's majority of the heavy traffic is from there to.
I wasn't mentioning any businesses.
Huh?
I wasn't gonna mention any other businesses.
No, I know,
other
but
taxpayers in town,
they're
right?
all cutting off there early.
Yes, well, that's what I was,
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
we had a little bit of talk about, like, there's some other, that come up and then take that quick left.
Yep, up to the
Right.
corner. Yep.
But that's a very short section that,
Mm-hmm.
it's in Goffstown, I mean,
Yeah.
probably 300 yards maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it's all going down to St. A's
Mhm.
Drive.
But again, if they come out of there and they're going a different way, they might be coming up that road and taking a left and going by St. A's, right? That could happen
It's
as
a
well.
possibility.
Right? So
But not,
that's,
for not very large, one, knowing that road, knowing the roads and living there.
yeah,
I live there, Richard lives there.
yeah.
We see what's going on that road all the time, so.
Can I ask a
Go
process
ahead.
question? Have we filed an appeal of the Bedford?
No, we were unable, so when you had your meeting on July 14th, the appeal deadline was a day and a half after that, less than 2 business
So we
days.
don't have that app.
And our town attorney had already represented Bedford zoning board in this case and was unable. So we did reach out to other firms, but again, a land use appeal, it's not just an application. You have to put everything in writing of what, and we were not able to do that.
It would have been, it's the same day type thing.
Okay, no, we don't have that avenue to address this.
No.
Okay, that's-
Unfortunately, we came to the party too late.
great.
Planning boards didn't, but the select board concerns did.
And you're saying Bedford will not change their minds on this, or you can't even bring it to them?
I won't venture to put words in their
Have-
mouths,
have-
but I won't venture to put words in their mouths, but just reading from the minutes and having attended those meetings, they said no.
Just to the construction part,
To
piece, and
traffic.
then put the gate back where,
Yeah,
they've already discussed that.
They basically wanted to eliminate the road altogether, because what we got from members of our planning board that went there, Jim. And our planning board members went there and actually expressed concern, and they didn't want to.
Yeah, Mr. Edmund attended on behalf of the planning board and did provide that narrative that he felt it was of a concern to the town of Goffstown, and that he would like to see that gate opened, whether it be, I want to say, for construction traffic, normal traffic, any day of the week, you name it. The board was very clear.
And I will say right now, opening that gate for through traffic would be something we would not entertain, right? Bringing all cut-throughs, because this is why we closed it. I wasn't there when they closed this thing, but they closed this thing a long time ago to prevent the cut-through. I mean, we got students walking around. You got people ripping through there. That would not be something we'd want to see. You know, for construction vehicles, that would be something maybe that we'd entertain for sure, but opening that thing for a throughway would be, it would bring, I think, all parties to the problem. If something ever happened, all parties would be in a lawsuit of some sort, right? Like, because you had it closed and now you open it and you have someone ripping through it would be awful for us. It
But
would be
that's done
awful.
all the time, when you have somebody builds a cul-de-sac, and then all of a sudden, they want to expand it, they take the gate down and keep going.
But 2,000 students there.
Yeah, well, I
2,000 students working around,
Yeah.
walking around. I mean, it would be like, it would be awful. I'm trying to push the traffic in our inner circle to the outside so we don't have pedestrians and cars walking around. To have pedestrians and cars coming zipping through would be an absolute nightmare.
I get it.
So we provided 2 recommendations, one of which you said is not going to happen, Bedford said it's not going to happen. Originally, you said you're not really up for the monitoring because you're not sure how you can actually determine that. So did you come to the table with any proposed options for us?
So from a monitoring perspective, we can go out, we've done this on plenty of projects, albeit in somewhat different circumstances. We can do the video documentation of the roadway to see what condition it is. Talking with your town engineer earlier today, yeah, it's due for work. We're gonna find a lot of stuff that's gonna say, we need to do some rehabilitation. We can document it, and at the end of the project, we can document it again, see what has happened. Becomes a question of what's an actionable item. You know, if there's an occurrence where specifically a St. A's project-related tractor trailer or dump truck has an accident and creates an issue on that roadway, then if we put this monitoring program into place, you could say, hey, there's a police report that says your truck caused damage here. They'd be responsible for it. And we put an appropriate surety bond in place to make sure those types of things are covered. But it's always the devil in the details of the enforcement, right? Is how do you create a plan that's as enforceable as possible? I think that part of this is just, I don't want to say handshake, but this is an agreement between the town and St. A's to say, all right, if there's some significant damage, we'll evaluate that with you. We'll do our best to determine whether or not this is of our responsibility, and we'll work with you to repair it. So, are we coming to you with a solution? Yes. It is essentially a monitoring agreement. It's just we have to work out what those details would be. We'd work with DPW to try and determine what they thought was appropriate.
Jim?
So we're talking construction vehicles coming from basically 114 up to the college, right? And that's it, that stretch.
And they're gonna take-
And then through the college. And so how was traffic, I mean, how was construction vehicles, there were a lot of construction vehicles for the nurses building, that's just, was it the same route, everything done the same? Was there any issues with the roads?
None that we know of.
But that's the same route?
The same exact route, yeah, and I'll say this, almost everything that we've done on the college is done, but since I've been there for the last 20 years, has come in that way.
The only difference is here is hauling heavy loads of gravel and going, hauling it up, where maybe you didn't have that issue with, like the nurses building.
Yeah,
And
and
they're gonna be lost, so-
absolutely, positively, we had another building there that we had to take out, so all the demo that came out of there was going somewhere, it didn't stay there, we took it out of here, right? So it
Right.
went down some road, so the building of Passon is now in some landfill somewhere, right?
Hopefully.
But we also did, you know, we had to build up, there were certain areas that we had to build up when we did the LLC, so the LLC, we had to bring in fill again, because when we got to that area, we had to take out a bunch of the loom because it wasn't buildable on, and then you had to bring in gravel to kind of do that stuff. So, again, I don't know the numbers, you know, I don't know how many tons or whatever that may be, but those construction vehicles have always done that route is.
So
what I'm trying to say.
summarize, what I'm hearing is, you're gonna work with DPW to come up with some kind of a monitoring. Is that right?
Yeah.
Our planning coordinator is back. She attended the meetings. Joanne, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say one quick thing.
Can you come up to the microphone, Joanne?
Oops, sorry.
I can just sit there. This project is different from almost every project that we have because the entranceway to every other project is through Goffstown, where this one is coming through Goffstown, but the construction is actually happening in another town. And that doesn't happen, I mean, in my career of almost 30 years, I'd say I've seen this 3 times. I mean, it's not something that happens very often. So when this project came in for review, we just, you know, the initial request was we need to come in through Goffstown to do our project in Bedford. And there's an RSA that covers how it works as far as the mechanisms of, yes, you have to have permission from the town that you're coming in from if there's no other way to get to that project. So, you know, everyone reviewed it. It started at the Bedford Planning Board back last year, I think it was in February. And it also went through their zoning board, and then it was appealed by an abutter here in Goffstown, and so that held it up for a year, and then it came back. So it's been taking them 2 years now to get through this process. It went through, so Scott and I reviewed it, Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission reviewed it because it was considered a regional impact project. And we also had a third-party engineer review, that was VHB, that reviewed the traffic report. And that was done a few times. It was, it wasn't like just a once and over. They reviewed it quite a bit. So they determined that the traffic would not be an issue. It wasn't until Bedford had their very last meeting. Tim and I attended the meeting before they approved it, and then they had one last meeting where they approved it just recently. I think it was like a month ago. And in the conditions of approval, I'm sure you all had a copy of the letter from Bedford. In the conditions of approval, it said, all construction traffic shall enter through Goffstown, which was kind of like a shocker to us because we didn't even think of, the construction traffic, because normally it just travels through the town that the construction is happening in. So that's why all of a sudden it kind of flew out there like, wait a minute, this wasn't discussed at all with Bedford. So that's why I think it kind of took us back thinking like, well, why is this happening? But I mean, I think one of the questions I think I would ask Nick is, well, how long do you expect these large trucks with the heavy material to be coming in and out? Because usually that's pretty quick. They get that over with in the beginning. So I'm not sure what the construction schedule is.
So we don't have a construction schedule defined just yet, in that the appeal period had just lapsed. It now gave us the opportunity to move the project forward to that next step where some of those elements start to be defined. In generalities, that earthwork phase, which is that initial phase where you'd see more vehicles bringing materials into the site, that can be a month to 3 months. For a project like this, I think we're forecasting anywhere between 12 months, potentially 15 months, total depending on supplies, with the vast majority of that coming with the installation of the field, the nuance work that's really required for that. If anything, it moves the contractor to get in and get that earthwork done as efficiently as possible and get that site stabilized so that we don't have any issues with sediment and erosion.
I have a public hearing that was scheduled at 6:30 I need to get to. I think that the problem is, as Joanne stated, that it was the last meeting where the condition was put in that everything goes through Goffstown is the problem. And unfortunately, we didn't get the information in time to do anything about it. And I think that's unfortunate, and I think that leaves a sour taste, if that makes any sense. And I'm sure I know CNAs will do whatever they can to help work with us on it, and I appreciate that. And I hope Adam is ready to work with them to make sure, to protect Goffstown's interests, which is what our job is, to protect the interests of Goffstown, which includes CNAs.
Can I just quick?
Go ahead, Jim.
So which Goffstown boards have approved this other than us?
Planning board.
Planning board. And the planning board, when they voted to approve it, did not know about the Goffstown, or they did or they didn't know
They
about
knew, they approved them coming through CNA's entranceway, the main entrance for the final project, but they didn't know about the construction traffic traveling through there until Bedford sent us that letter, which I don't remember the date of the letter, but I think it was maybe the 16th or somewhere around there.
So that was never discussed and put through a board
No, we never had a discussion
procedure,
with,
et cetera?
I've had many discussions with Bedford Planner on this project, and like I said, we did attend the meeting, but no one ever said anything about construction traffic.
Is there a final vote, Joanne, for
Yes.
planning? Because my understanding is it didn't finalize. Did it
Yes,
finalize?
yes, in
So we confirm
2004,
that?
in 2024,
Okay.
yep, for on the Goffstown side.
All right, so in conclusion, like I said, they're going to work with the DPW director.
Do we need to make a motion for that agreement to be put in place?
I think. Go ahead.
I think we would need to see if you were going to do some type of written agreement. This is a publicly available road that has no weight restrictions. To put weight restrictions or some type of restrictions on one property owner, I would want to consult with the town attorney first. I think you've got a taxpayer that's here that's offering to work with the town and try and make sure that, but we don't have, provided they follow NHDOT rules for weight restrictions, they're on a publicly available road.
I agree.
so I'm sure that the college has certain interests, so if it was going to be a written agreement that you're going to approve, then we would need to draft that up and have it looked over by the town attorney.
Okay, so I think if you want to make a motion on something, that you authorize the town administrator to work on working with the town attorney and St. A's on a program to protect our St. Anselm's Drive. Is that the way to put it?
If that's what the board wants to do, yes.
Right.
I don't mean to interrupt the deliberation. Are you asking for there to be a weight restriction on our vehicles that's above and beyond what the DOT?
I don't think that's what we're saying.
Oh, okay.
I think we're worried about road damage.
Okay.
You know, and I'm sure that, you know, it doesn't take much of a phone call to get DOT to set up and start weighing the trucks as they come in to make sure that the people hauling are following the rules. Understood. Not that that's a threat or anything, but it's a possibility.
I suppose they could do that with any site
That's
anywhere in
right.
the state of New Hampshire.
That's right.
Yeah, those rules are there to be enforced.
All right, is there anything else? Okay, we need that motion.
Make a motion to have a town administrator work with our attorney and St. Anselm's to make sure that we get a proper agreement put in place.
Second.
Motion by Josh, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate it.
Good to see you.
All right, pursuant to RSA 41:14B, the Goffstown Select Board is holding this public hearing to accept public input on the proposed adoption of a new ordinance limiting parking at Barnard Park lot during school hours, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. The town would cease parking for students at the Park and Rec building also. This is the second public hearing. A vote is scheduled for Monday, August 11th. Copies are available for residents and attendants at the town's website. I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here from the public to comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on that.
So I do have a question for the board on this.
Uh-huh.
During Rick's presentation back in June, he indicated, we had a discussion over the parking fee. Currently, your master fee schedule has a $55 fee for the school year at the Parks and Rec. There was some discussion amongst board members that whether or not that was an appropriate amount. If you are going to change a fee, we need to notice that as a separate public hearing that we can do on the same night that you would vote on this. So if the board would like to change that annual fee from $55 to some other amount, I would need to know about that this evening.
I would agree, except for one reason. We're limiting parking from Parks and Rec.
Correct, but at Barnard...
At Barnard, that's a different story. But I'm just saying
Correct.
that Parks and Rec building, we're eliminating that.
Correct, he was charging $55 for both locations.
Okay, so we need, okay, so at our next meeting, we need to do that.
So, no, you need to do it tonight, right?
It would be much more convenient to have you, if you were going to change a fee, to vote to put that to public hearing on the 11th, because again, Rick is going to be having students. Yep.
Rick, did you want to come up and speak?
May I?
Oh, yeah, come on up.
Here's the down and dirty reality, okay? First week of August, people need to find places to park. You guys don't meet again until when?
August 11th, and then August 25th.
So they're already gonna, so August 11th, so then we can't make it public until August 12th.
Right,
I think it's kind of silly.
that's the only way, that's the way the ball bounced, you know, I mean, that's just the way it is.
And school starts when again? I think it's after that, right?
They're calling right now, brother. They're calling right now.
Oh, I know they're calling right now,
Mhm.
but the school isn't even putting permits in place until like another week or so.
Whatever they do, they do. I know what we do.
So the school doesn't charge for parking?
They do.
They do?
The school charges $125, and they do theirs this year on August 21st and 22nd. They have a 2-day sign-up, seniors one day, and then the next day are seniors and juniors.
So, that's just the way it's gonna be.
All right.
You're just gonna have to tell them that, you know, the public hearing's already gone, and the final vote's the 11th.
Okay.
We're gonna, you know, that's just.
We'll make it public after that time.
Right.
You don't care what the fee is, right? You don't-
If you ask me, I wouldn't charge a penny.
Okay, all right, I just want to know if that's still your
I'm not corporate
position.
America. I'm not corporate America.
Okay,
Yeah, and how much does it cost for the permits, Rick?
$95?
No, hold on.
To the
To
sticker?
buy the permits, $95.
How many do you get for that?
100.
100, so they're like $1 a piece.
Yeah.
I mean, the argument has been, and I've seen some of it online, is that people are saying this is still public space. I hear what you're saying, Rick, and I tend to agree that it is still a public space. We're putting restrictions to say that during school hours, you can't park over Parks and Rec building, right? You're still having some of the same issues even over at Barnard, where that space is filling up and people can't go over there and do things. Yes?
The whole intent for doing what we're doing, unfortunately, is this now gives us authority, proper authority, to remove somebody or give them a parking fine. Right now, the way it is, you can park anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Still gotta get a permit.
Still gotta get a permit.
So you,
All right, and you're only gonna give out how many permits?
25.
25 permits, and that's it. But there's gotta be some ramifications if people park there. Why does one person get it, the other one doesn't? What's the ramifications? You're gonna have towed? You're gonna give tickets? What's our ramifications?
That's what it is. You have a 3-hour limit. You have a 3-hour limit, and if you're over that 3-hour limit, then you're gonna be getting a parking fine.
Not the students, though.
To whoever's parking there, I don't know, whoever's a
He doesn't know who the
student.
car is.
You're gonna have 25 spaces allocated for these students. Yes, they can park there the entire school year, okay, the school time frame.
That's what I'm saying.
So the other
Okay,
25
that's,
spots.
I'm just getting confused when you talk about the school spots and the regular spots.
Yeah.
Okay, so, is there 50 spots there?
Yeah,
Okay, so 50 are gonna go to the school, be assigned
25.
25, and the other 25 are gonna be public with a 3-hour limit.
Yes, sir.
That's the cut. That's right. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, the question is are we gonna raise the rate, or are we just gonna get rid of it or make them pay for the sticker?
I'd leave it as people versus 125 at the high school, you're getting half the price, so.
gotta walk a little bit.
Huh?
Gotta walk a little bit to school.
Yeah, should get. I would-
You know, you say, exactly. I mean, you think about this, okay? Let's be real here. So they're parking at Barnard Park. How are they getting to the school? Cutting through the woods.
Through people's
I
property.
don't shovel that. I don't do nothing. We do nothing for that.
How long have they been doing that like that?
My 16 years. And probably
And
Dave's
it's still
30
big in the
years.
park over there.
And they still park there.
I don't think the revenue is that impactful, and I'm kind of with Rick, like,
I
I
just,
don't even care if we charge them for it.
that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Because if you charge a fee, now you got some kind of onus. Oh, so am I gonna have to go and snow blow and plow a path? An expectation, an
We never have
entitlement
in the
thing?
past, why would you start now?
Why not? Who knows, Pete?
Why would you start now?
I wouldn't.
Those spots are gonna be there.
I wouldn't.
right, And we're
You're
charging
right.
for those spots.
But-
We haven't done it in the past, and we charge for them. I understand. We still, it's a way to help maintain the parking lot and the striping and things like that that have to go into a place like that. And we're not talking a huge lot of money, but that would cover striping, 25 times 50.
$1,100.
You know, so there is a certain amount that would go.
But you're not getting 50, you're only getting 25, right? 25.
25 spots.
Do you get $1,100? Is that covering all the striping?
No.
No.
But it covers the striping for those 25 spots. How's that?
I don't know, sure. If, however you
Why are we
want.
arguing about this now? I
I'm
mean,
not
this wasn't
arguing
the
over
problem when
nothing.
we first talked about this.
I'm not arguing over nothing.
Well, we did talk about the price, to Derek's point, so I don't have a huge bias to raising the price or lowering it. I don't really care.
Nobody's talking about raising the price, we're just maintaining the price.
Well, actually, I brought up raising it to match the high school.
I disagree with that.
I'm in favor of leaving it alone.
Me too.
Me too.
Thank you.
Welcome, thanks for your input.
No. Hello, everybody. We're gonna have to work on getting some, like, we're gonna paint it and stuff like that, just to make it allocated, so that they know. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you,
We'll
appreciate
close
it.
the public hearing on that, and we'll start with the next one. Pursuant to RSA 41:14-B, the Goffstown Select Board is holding this public hearing to accept public input on the proposed adoption of a new ordinance adding a stop sign at the intersection of Rockland Ave and St. Anselm's Drive. This is the second public hearing. A vote is scheduled for Monday, August 11th. Copies are available for the residents in attendance and at the town's website. Is there anybody here with input on that? Any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll close that public hearing. And we have one more. Pursuant to RSA 41:14-B, the Goffstown Select Board is holding a public hearing to accept public input on the proposed adoption of a new ordinance reducing the speed limit to 25 miles per hour on the Hinsdale Drive. This is the second public hearing. The vote is scheduled for Monday, August 11th. Copies are available for residents in attendance and on the town's website. Is there anybody here for this? Seeing none, I'll close that public hearing. And again, we'll be doing this, hitting this on the August 14th. The 14th, right?
The 11th.
11th. Okay. Derek?
Okay, well, we've actually got to take a step back to tab 5 for Rick as a bid award recommendation.
Sure.
So this is for the Barnard Tennis Court right-way crack repair. Derek, do you want to segue or anything on that, or?
No.
Okay. What we got is we had two bids, and we had another bid that was mailed on the 15th and in our possession on the 17th. Anyhow. The lowest bid was from New England Seal Coating at $36,575. The other bid from Sports Tech Incorporated was $38,390.
And in your packet, there is an indication we did receive one bid untimely. Came in the following day. It was postmarked prior to the bid submission deadline, and we've just maintained it unopened, which is our typical practice.
Is there a rule or something on allowing us or not allowing us to open a late bid? To use a
So
late bid?
normally when we post a bid, we say the select board retain all rights to waive any provision of their purchasing policy. So if you wanted to open that bid, you could, and then consider it. But as staff, we are not allowed to do that, and we typically do not do that.
And then if we did that, then it would have to go, if it was a lower bid, then we would have to go back to Parks and Rec for their recommendation.
I think the recommendation from the commission was they recommended awarding the bid to the lowest
To the
bidder.
lowest, the recommendation from the commissioners were for the lowest bid, to the lowest bid.
Even if the lowest bid is this new one that came in late?
The lowest bid.
Okay.
Yeah,
So if we decide to open it and the
Right.
bid was lower, we could accept it.
Right.
Bottom line.
so Rick, when you chose these individuals, I assume there was some sort of like RFP process that you
Yes.
went through?
Yeah, we put together an RFP, sent it out to two companies, one here, and then the sealed bid is one that we did send it to. And then we had a bonus here of the Sports Tech group.
Okay, so New England Seal Coating responded to the RFP and Vermont Tennis Court.
And that's also put out in the notification, through the union leader. So all those people that get into that bid spec world, so everybody has an opportunity to see it.
Sure, but only two responded to the RFP.
These two and then that late one, yes.
That's,
Well, Vermont Tennis Court responded, they were just like postmarked in time, but they only gave it a day to get here, and that's,
Yeah. 15.
Did you weight the 3 on the RFP by the criteria, which one you felt like responded with the best?
It's pretty cut and dry. I mean, it's, you know, what we asked for is in this right-way crack system. What is remaining is 3 different phases of that, so you have to grind down the crack fill, which has already been done, then put down the membrane, put down the adhering glue for that membrane, and then put a coat over that, and then to paint the entire court, all 4 courts, all over again. So it was pretty cut and dry. And they're all right-way crack people. That didn't come out right.
And they all specialize in tennis courts.
Excuse me?
And they all specialize in tennis courts.
Sports Tech does, New England does a little of everything.
You want a motion?
And Vermont does specifically tennis courts.
Well, I want to beat it because like you want it to come out right too.
Yeah.
So if New England seal coating, while cheap, may not actually do tennis courts.
I'm sure
That's why I'm
they
asking
do, I
about the
didn't ask
RFP.
that question, they do a little of everything.
We'll find out, because I'm gonna make a motion, we give the bid for the Barnard Tennis Court right-of-way crack repair to New England Seal Coating, Hingham, Mass, for a total of $36,575.00.
Seconded.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Richard. Any discussion? Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining?
Nay,
Nay is what?
isn't I oppose?
Okay. So you got 4-1-0.
Thank you.
Okay, next, I think you're up.
Thank you, guys.
Yep, thank you.
Right. At tab 7, you have your committee meeting assignment. Thursday night at 6 PM, you have the CIP committee in Town Hall. Next week, just a reminder, on Tuesday night, you have National Night Out behind the high school. Wednesday at 6 PM, Economic Development Council will be in this room.
Yep.
And Wednesday at 6:30 PM, the Library Board of Trustees will be at the library.
You got that covered, Richard?
Yes, I do.
You okay?
On your next page, you have the consent agenda. You have employee status reports. You have a fire per diem paramedic resignation, fire part-time firefighter 1 EMT discharge. You have a Parks and Rec seasonal lifeguard rehire. You have a police full-time patrol officer new hire. You have a police full-time patrol officer step increase following the schedule in the CBA. And then you have a fire per diem AEMT, which is a new hire.
Make a motion to approve the consensus agenda this evening as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. I have one question. We haven't done swearing in at the police offices. Well, I guess we did it last year. When are we doing it again, or?
I will reach out to the chief and see. They have been doing it as one ceremony, either at Stonebridge or at St. Anselm.
We did St. A's last year.
Yep, I will ask them what their plans are. I think last year we did it in the fall. So.
Okay.
Your next page, you have a recommendation from the town assessor. You have an application for veterans tax credit. The assessor recommends denial due to insufficient documentation.
Is the documentation, is it in here anywhere?
It is not. There was a memo in the signature folder that explained everything that was connected to it.
I'll make a motion to approve the assessor's recommendation as presented.
Second. Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any further any questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries.
That was all I had for the town administrator's report.
Okay, do we have anybody on new business?
So under new business, I had, employee appreciation
I was gonna bring
event.
that up.
Yeah.
So in the past, what, 3 years? It's been 3 years?
Yes, maybe 4. But
Yeah, maybe 4. The select board has always held an employee appreciation event. Usually it's at the end of August. And what we do is have it over at Roy Park. We usually hire LeMay to come in. We usually hire some other people, like the axe thrower one year, and magicians, and we have the ice cream lady come, and things like that. And I don't know if we want to continue to do that, if we have the funds to do it. Danielle, you want to come up? Danielle's always put the numbers together. You know, maybe this is the year we can't afford to do it. I don't know what what we got built up in our funds.
Good evening, everyone. In the last few years, we've heavily utilized the Health Trust Wellness Funds, as well as the wellness funds the town had in the operating budget. At this point, the Health Trust has allowed us to use it because it was based on, social health, mental health, that sort of activity-based team building. But I think we should be running additional programs around wellness, and I don't know that they would continue to support if we use the same event every year. So it may be different as far as money in the operating funds. I don't believe we have anything budgeted specifically for this. We only have whatever you would normally have in your civil ceremonies line, primarily.
Okay. So we don't have any funds this year.
Not specifically allocated for this.
And what makes you decide that we wouldn't be able to use the trust funds, so from the funds?
The health trust funds, well, the health trust funds aren't enough to cover the project entirely. In the past, it's been about $5,000, and the health trust was only giving us about $1,000. But we had a couple years built up previously that we'd carried over, and we had utilized that. But at this point, we're down to only $500 from the health trust based on the way they've changed their program. And they've said that we have to submit a report every year to say what the funds were used for. And they're encouraging all of the sites to do programming direct to the employees for, increasing health in different areas, health and wellness.
Okay.
So it costs about $5,000.
Yeah, I mean, between the catering for the food really is the biggest piece, and then the entertainment is usually a couple $100 depending on which combination of entertainment the board selected. The board typically has done the coordination themselves with all the vendors, and we simply just write the check on the board's behalf. There was also usually a few $100s to like BJ's for plates and spoons and drinks and that kind of plasticware, stuff like that.
Kelly and I normally were the ones that handled it. I think you were hurt.
Yeah, I was Olympic chicken.
Yeah, Collis was out. Jim helped, but Kelly and I was the ones that usually got together. We had to rent tables and chairs. All that stuff is
Right.
expensive. But as she said, we had the money then. Now we don't have the money. It's too bad because it was a good event, and firefighters and police, and I always thought it was great, but we don't have the money unless we find it someplace. But
Right, I mean, we do have some kind of rewards programs like we've used in the past through the credit card to do like a gift card raffle and things like that. And typically we still do gift card raffles at like open enrollment, which people enjoy as well. But I don't believe we have a large enough amount to do it the same way. We've done it on the same scale. We've also seen a bit of a decline in participation. I know last year specifically was the smallest participation we've had so far.
So, lack of participation and lack of funds, I would say I would say we wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do that, maybe do something else like you
Right,
said.
we might be able to come up with a different event or
Yeah.
another idea to bring to the board.
I'm good with that.
Me too.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Old business, do we have anything there really?
The only item I had on there is, I know I brought up previously department head evaluation process and what information the board wants and when you'd like to conduct those.
Well, I always liked the way we did it in the past, because of self-evaluation, then.
We review their self-evaluation.
Right. Has anybody got anything? Josh?
Yeah, I was hoping that we could get some details collectively, around like employee retention within the team, looking at their budgets and how they're managing that. I think self-assessment's great, but we're also not sitting in with them day to day either. So I think we need to look at some facts that go along with some of those pieces.
Could you send him one of those forms?
I sent it to the entire board.
Did
of
you
what's
get the
been
form?
used.
Did you
I
look
saw
at
the
it?
form, and I do self-assessments with my team outside of here as well. A lot of it still comes down with like peer evaluation. I don't know if we ever do any 360s or anything like that to see how people are interworking or how employees are actually viewing their managers. But those are all things that I've used in the past in order to assess, especially when you don't have direct contact.
We have done, was it last year or the year before, did we send out the employee survey?
It wasn't about individual department heads, but yes, he did conduct an employee survey.
But there was a lot of
Maybe, I
feedback
think,
on,
2 or 3 years ago.
yeah.
Do you guys do sentiment analysis of specific teams or anything like that?
No. And again, we proceed at the direction of the select board.
Yeah, anybody can say they're doing awesome. I think to understand some of the inner workings within the team is also important.
Yeah, but just to add to that, Josh, the ones that we have seen and the ones that we reviewed, I think they have fairly given themselves a good evaluation, because not only did they put positive comments, but they wrote some negative comments as well in there, and they said that they would work on the negative comments to try to bring themselves up. I mean, I understand where you're coming, but I mean, they do well as far as I'm concerned.
Is your idea to put a form out to employees to evaluate their supervisors?
It's like 3 questions sometimes you typically send people, and you just say, you know, how are things going? And you get a rating scale back typically along with a few comments, and then you can understand what's happening in each one of the teams.
We'd have to develop some questions, we have to do it quickly because we want to get it done. And you have to get it out to the employees, and you have to get it back. I'm not sure that we can do it in as short a time. Maybe we could develop something for the future.
When do we start the budget? September?
Yeah.
You'll receive the budget in October.
Can we not get the facts of like employee retention, like how that's going in each one of the teams, and also, you know, just general like turnover rates and things like that? I mean, those are facts. Those aren't necessarily.
Yeah, but I don't want to sound negative about it, but I can't look at employee retention as a meter of our department heads, because the way employee retention has been, when Manchester says, I'm going to pay you this much, and the younger guys say, okay, I'm going there.
I'm not saying it's a meter. I think it's also a discussion point to understand what's going on. Like,
But we're talking about 2 different things now. You're talking about a discussion point about why people are leaving, and a discussion about employee evaluations. Is it the fire department's fault, the police department's fault, that if somebody is offered a different position at another place, but DPW retains their people because they're paying the right rate, or they're not as under demand or over demanded as the police and fire are? So you would penalize those 2 department heads because their turnover is higher than somebody in DPW?
not
Or
everybody
Parks and
leaves.
Rec?
Not everybody leaves because of money, and often people don't start looking around until they're unhappy. So I think that, you know, to make the assumption that we're solely looking at that number to assume that they're leaving just because of its money.
We do employ exit interviews.
Okay, so what do we get out of that collective to what we're hearing about leadership?
I don't know, sometimes the leadership problem is not necessarily department head's problem. It could be intermediate,
Great.
and then that,
How is the department head taking care of that leadership? Because that is their responsibility.
Derek's turnover this year. He's lost, what, retirement, 3, 4?
Retired.
Yeah. So that's turnover.
Yeah, but there's a difference between voluntary and involuntary, or, you know, and also just retirement. So like you have different types of turnover.
How are you gonna determine that?
HR should actually be keeping track of that.
We do, when somebody leaves, we're able to track their.
So you know if somebody retires early because, or decides to retire because they just had
We-
enough? They just don't wanna do it anymore?
We know that they went into and are drawing from New Hampshire retirement. We don't know if they decided to
Yeah.
leave a year or two early versus somebody leaving for another position. We do track that in our software,
But retirement's different than people like switching jobs, but they do have different categories for those, right, Derek?
in our software, yes.
Okay, come up with something then. I mean, who's gonna do this?
I'm happy to send the things that I think that we should at least look at when we're getting
Yeah,
self-evaluations.
sure, send it to us. I don't, the more people that get involved, the better off, instead of putting it all on, you know, these folks. If you've
Yeah, I
got
don't
some
wanna put it on
ideas,
everybody.
Put it up to us quickly, because we wanna do this quickly. and then-
So I think if board members can provide feedback to myself and Danielle by email, we can maybe give you some samples of what the data looks like, and then the board collectively at your next meeting can decide which data you want to
Awesome.
have.
Okay, we'll do it that way.
Okay.
Next, you got non-public?
Have we heard,
Uh,
we heard anything about the tower matter?
So you have your action matrix.
I just wanted
The tower ladder, we have submitted a claim into Primex for that. They have sent out an adjuster to come look at it, and we haven't received the individual's report yet
Okay.
on it, and whether, you know, what Primex will be.
Yep.
So, and I can have, I can reach out to the fire chief to get the, what he's got for a repair estimate for it.
Oh, we're just not gonna do anything until we hear from Primex.
We're waiting to hear from
Then
Primex.
it'll come back fast.
Yep.
Anything else? You have a non-public, Mark?
You have your second public comment. and,
Oh, I'm sorry, anybody here for public comment? There's nobody here. Close public comment, go ahead, Mark.
Motion to go in non-public session, RSA 91A 32C, adversely affecting the reputation of person other than the board and land.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. That's a roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. That'll conclude tonight's public portion of our meeting. We'll be going into a non-public session now.
Thank you.